welcome to this edition of African View with me, Yodita Masu, the program that discusses the socio-economic issues around Africa. And today we have a special guest from the EU-Africa Union Partnership, and this partnership was forged in 2008, and to discuss about that and a recently held event on the streets of Addis Ababa, you might have noticed. Here to talk to me about that is Mr. Thomas. Thank you for coming. And could you tell us a little bit about the partnership, AU-EU Partnership?
Well, we are neighboring continents, Africa and Europe, and I think we, as neighboring continents, we have a lot of interest, especially in a more and more globalized world with also common challenges. We are representing the European Union, which is a story of countries coming together after many wars and hard times and around the peace project, integrating and also economically building together after the Second World War. And I think what our partnership is also with the African Union, which is also a union of 55 member states that are also trying to be closer together. And the more we are integrated as countries, the more we can think about prosperity, about development, about a lot of good things. And I think our partnership is a partnership of peer type of organizations where we are sharing some of our experiences of integration, how we worked. I mean, I think currently the common free trade area of Africa is a big project, and it's a very exciting project, because I think what we all want is that African countries, instead of exporting maybe natural resources outside, that they trade with each other products of added value, and that because of that there is an accelerated development, and then because of that also that conflicts are getting disappearing, like in the European Union. For us, the stronger the African Union and its member states are, the better it is for
I think you can share some experiences, because you have formed this union before Africans. So in the case of the free trade agreement that you mentioned with Africans coming together for that free trade engagement with each other, I think you could be a good partner in that, I think.
Indeed, I think we are quite unique, and there are not many others who can be doing the same thing. Of course, every region needs to take its own road, and I think the basic parameters are a bit different. We started with the European Union with only 6 countries at the beginning, and we gradually expanded. We also at the beginning focused on just a few issues. It was the coal and steel cooperation, then gradually we went into the economic integration, and now we are moving more and more into the political integration. And I think with the African Union, it's like already immediately with 55 countries, but there are a number of exciting projects, flagships that they say. The CFTA is one, but for instance, there is the single aviation transport market, which is another way of like, can you make flying around the continent not just safer but also cheaper, with proper regulations, and therefore making the connections between countries much easier. And so there are many exciting subjects on which we are working closely together. And I think another one is, in a few days they will officially launch the African single electricity market. That's another, I mean, it may look a little bit technical, but what is the aim is by having more common regulations, having also border arrangements for transfer of electricity, you bring the costs of electricity down, and that is in the interest of of all the continent, of the citizens, and with tremendous, again, potential for further development, because you need electricity to do a lot of things. I mean, I think we're talking about nowadays about the digital transformations that we all go in our society. Important to have everywhere access to electricity, and also access to online services. And this is another area where we are sharing our respective experience, and also try to push for, because we have also some values and principles that we think are important. For instance, on the digital transformation, it's important to have an open market, a people-centered, not a top-down decision and controlling system. And I think this is also an area where we share a lot with our African brothers and sisters, and we want to join forces.
One of the major activities that you have, initiatives, partnerships that you have with the African countries, African Union, is the art, music. You have already got some initiatives, and also this street art initiative that was recently held around Addis Ababa. Can we talk about that, about the objective of the competition, and what was its outcome?
No, I think for us it's also important is that, I mean, we connect people, and so a lot of our work is, of course, is exchange between students, researchers, but also the culture sector is a very good sector to bring different cultures together and co-create together. And so 2 years ago we had our first initiative of such a kind, where we invited applicants, musicians from 2 continents to come together. I mean, we had a lot of candidates, so we were able to select excellent musicians playing different instruments, and then spending 2 or 3 weeks together to co-create, and then do concerts and so. Now this time, I mean, in the COVID context, we were thinking, what is it that we can do that is COVID-proof, that is adapted, but that is still bringing art into life, and that is when we were thinking of street art, which is something is less and more developed in different countries of Africa, but we have an emerging scene of young artists in Africa, and also we have an established scene in Europe. So we launched a competition, and we had 250 artists from Africa and Europe who applied, with a selection committee.
How was the selection? How do you go about it? They present sample?
They present, I mean, first of all, they had to present in 1 page a number of ideas. What we wanted is that through their artwork, they express some of the common themes of partnership between continents, some of the key values of solidarity, of human rights, into their artwork. So they presented a sketch of what they could possibly do. We had identified the locations and the size of the possible artworks. They had to illustrate old artwork they had done. And they had to write, not much, because we know not all artists may be good writers, but still, like, they had to write in a 1-page some of the ideas and objectives they would have. And then we had a professional jury of both artists, renowned artists from the 2 continents, and also the African Union Commission, the EU, and the Addis Ababa Cultural Department, because we wanted it to be really an integrated partnership, where also we wanted to make sure that this new art way, which is emerging in Addis Ababa, would eventually, through an effective collaboration, bring ideas for further work beyond that. And so eventually 2 artists from Africa and 2 from Europe were selected, and then they came here end of April. I mean, they respected the COVID related rules, so they were first in quarantine, and afterwards they met together. And what was also very important, we pushed for having young Ethiopian street artists to join the effort. And actually, we had about 10 of them who worked as assistants of the renowned artists. So they were very actively engaged in helping to give shape to the artworks. Through this, we're also learning new skills, also learning to work with new materials, because some special paints and things like that were used. And as a kind of little follow-up to this initiative, we will still have at least another big wall that would be done by the local Ethiopian street artists who participated in the project. So that is the last stage of this project. But I think the idea of this street art project was also is to bring art into the city that everyone can access and view and enjoy. Is to show that, I mean, when you have a lot of concrete, you can embellish it with artwork. And so we hope that this initiative that shows African and European unity is also an initiative that in Addis Ababa will lead to more street artwork. And I think in that sense, the collaboration also with the Addis Ababa city administration was very useful, and we know that further talks are happening between the local street artists and the Addis Ababa city administration for further projects. So okay. I think
that's really interesting. We have got the video of the whole process, so let's take a look at the video of the artists taking part in the street art, and we'll come back and discuss some more.
What you're seeing here is a very interesting, innovative project that we're doing, where we've got street artists, both from Europe and from Africa. Promoting what we have in common and what we share. This is what it is all about. In this year, where the African Union is working with art, culture and heritage.
Yeah, I'm currently painting at the EU Delegation building in Addis Ababa.
Salam, salam. Unity in diversity, because I think there are no difference between colors. We are people. So we have just to collaborate and help each other to try to make this world a little bit better.
I was not expecting to come to Ethiopia, and this project had brought me here. I'm super happy and super glad of knowing the country.
Hopefully my artwork inspires communities and areas on where I painted.
Cheers, man.
Ethiopia, you already know, we love Ghana, Africa, Mazimba. Black, white, we are one people.
One love.
So just go like this, bro. Peace out, man.
We are back. That was a really hard work, and we can see the cooperation of the artists with the local artists that you have mentioned, which have got an experience to request the Addis Ababa City Administration to give them more work, more space to display their artwork. So how long did it take them, the artists, to do one big wall street?
Well, they had about 9 days to do the artwork after they went out of the quarantine. They started, unfortunately, it was a small rainy season at that moment, so they were not able to work full time, but they worked the days they had enough sun and it was dry enough, they did longer. But in the end, they started on a Friday and they finished on the following Saturday, the day before the 9th of May, which is the Europe Day, and we wanted it to officially be launched on the 9th of May, which we managed just in time. And I think what we've seen, and you've seen through the video, is that in the beginning they are, because it's a big surface. I think it was a surface of sometimes like 10, 12 meters and 5,
big,
6 meters.
Some of them they were using
high.
crane, yeah.
So they were using all kinds of equipment, but it's to have the right shape. They put specific small drawings more to identify where they would need to put key parts of their artwork. They work with their tablets, where they have pre-prepared, and then together with the assistants, they started to fill, the colors, the shapes, and so on. And I think what I was very interested to see is that one of the places is under the Adams Pavilion or the Sahabet.
Under the bridge.
Under the bridge. I saw the other day some weddings.
Oh, really?
taking pictures now in front of the artwork. I saw young people taking selfies with the artwork behind. So what is nice is that it is living in the city. There is interaction happening between people and the artwork, and in some cases it will end up in their households because of the pictures. So
But that was the purpose, right? To get people interested, to look at, to appreciate art.
Yeah.
So that shows you they have appreciated enough to be in their wedding pictures.
Yeah. No, and we hope that, I mean, what we did will stimulate more of this, not only in Ethiopia but also beyond. We have next year the EU summit to take place, and we're looking into possibly doing something bigger, maybe around the different capitals of the European Union and the African Union. So I think also in these moments of COVID times, it's also good to find ways to support artists who may not have the same access to deliver their performances, and I think some of the street artists are also traditional artists. I mean, they make paintings and so on, and so this was a very welcome additional work for them, and I think there was a lot of, you can see from the video also, a lot of very positive energy that came out of this, and I think that's what we also try to do is bringing people together. And I think seeing the richness of the two continents, of the different traditions, and how these things can come together, I mean, is something also, is a message of also, being together, joined, with underlining that we are de facto, we are all human beings with the same.
Yes, I see a lot of camaraderie between the artists. You know, the artists, they came from Italy, Spain, Ghana, and South Africa. And when we looked at them, they were really enjoying their time here. They went to the traditional restaurants, they were dancing, and
no, it was very emotional at the end of the ceremony on the 9th, because you saw that it was an intense 10 days of collaboration, but with a lot of enjoyment and pride, and also they became, that's how you see when you bring people together and around art, you create very special bonds.
So what's next for the partnership, EUAU Partnership?
Well, the next is indeed we have this important summit that is coming up. I mean, I think the idea is indeed to always go at the next step and to deepen. And I think on the one hand we want to be still the key partner in supporting some key African initiatives. We mentioned before the work on the CFTA, but also, for instance, now on health and on relate to COVID, we see that again nowadays this type of pandemics they are brought. I mean, they have consequences for the whole planet, and so also the solutions can only be found if we all are in it. And so I think there again we appreciate the great work that the African Union with its African Center for Disease Control is doing in coordinating, because individual countries alone cannot solve the issues. And I think that's a bit the same what the EU is doing, is to join forces to find solutions. And I think one of the important areas we need to make progress is also to help Africa for vaccine and medicine manufacturing, that a lot more can be done here. And I think this is one track that we are working on, and we will
okay. I think you're being modest, but I have an information that the recently provided vaccine in Ethiopia and other African countries, the lion's share of that donation, that assistance came from the European Union.
No, it's true that in fact the European Union, early on when the pandemic started, in early May last year, so that is roughly 6 weeks after we really realized, oh, this is a pandemic, this will touch the whole world, the EU leadership showed how can we need to work on prevention, but also eventually work on a vaccine. And so in that context, the COVAX mechanism, which is a mechanism to pool efforts to ensure that at least for 20% of the population around the world there are vaccines available, was launched by the European Union, where we have put, of course, a lot of resources, both in the research but also in ensuring this access to vaccines. And we've tried to bring other countries from around the world on board. Some have done more recently. We still hope that more are joining, because I think it's, again, we think that it's through multilateral solutions that we can have the needed solidarity around the world, and we don't believe that individual countries giving 500,000 vaccines, what the so-called vaccine diplomacy is going to really solve. What we need now is to move that by the end of next year, in 2022, we have indeed the 60-70% of populations across the world being vaccinated, and therefore tools like COVAX, where the EU with its member states have shown leadership, have put the biggest amount of resources into this, are delivering. And I think one of the next steps is to also make sure that, as I said, in the future vaccine manufacturing can be done also on the continent.
Really interesting, because as the saying goes, teach a person how to fish rather than giving him fish. So that cooperation says a lot about the partnership, building a vaccine, manufacturing plant rather than always. So that's really interesting. Any additional words that you would like to say to Ethiopians or Africans on regarding the cultural exchange or the cultural initiatives that you have, including the street art?
I would say is we definitely bringing all kinds of artists and cultural actors together is something we will really continue. We've done it this year, was the street art. Maybe next year it's around dance, and it's again you have on both continents we have different traditions, but it is extremely interesting to bring traditions together, and so we will continue to bring, because we think that it is also inspiring people on the different continents. It shows how much we are different, but at the same time we are alike, and I think that is an important message, and that through art and creation we provide something to the public that is of value and that makes our quality of life eventually better. And I think it's a small part of our partnership, but I think it's something that is very dear to our heart. And I think also in the context of the African Union Arts and Culture Special Year, this was a little contribution, but hopefully we can do more of this
Yes.
around the continent.
I'm sure you'll do more of that, because both sides, they have rich culture, a wide, diverse identity. So holding cultural days, cultural events, this kind of integration, I think it's endless. We can do it over and over again, and it would be really interesting, because if you appreciate the culture of one community, one country, then they would appreciate yours, and the communication would be successful. So I wish you all the best. That's all we have for this edition of African View with Mr. Thomas at the EUAU Partnership, and I really want to thank you again. And this program is brought to you by Kaleo Communication and Africa Health TV station. So till next time, bye.